There we are, back home again. What a beautiful sight. Although, I know very shortly we're going to have to make this building bigger, or we're going to have to build another building, because we are getting close to Black Forest, and once we get in there we're going to have another crafting table, which is one of the first things we need. And yeah, we're going to need more space for it. I can already tell that the floor space is being filled up with, the wall space has been filled up with chests. I could use my little trick with the little wooden panels or little wooden flooring segments you can have sticking out from the wall above one chest to then be able to put a second chest on top of it. But first of all, it doesn't look great. And second of all, I have a better system for chests than this. I'm probably going to spend some time in between episodes doing that system. And I'll probably do the building of that extra building or extra space on this one that we're going to need. Just going to repair all my things. Just because we need to make sure that we've got that space available. I don't want to have to knock things down halfway through, say like in the middle of a farming session, or if we haven't even killed Eikthyr yet and we have to build another one. But it is something we're going to need to do in the Black Forest at some point. I think, again, like I said, what I'll do is this really massive, big circular type building. Oh, hello. Oh, that's our first boat, that is. I didn't realise we can make that now. Although, to be fair, when you look at the materials you need, it's not difficult to make. Oh, my fire's gone out. So that's, again, that is another mechanic of campfires, is that they take wood to burn naturally, and you need to make sure that you keep wood in them as well. So when you hover over the actual campfire itself, you'll notice that it says wood 1 out of 10 when you first build it. It starts with 1 piece of wood, although it takes 2 pieces of wood to build the campfire, so I've always wondered why it says 1 piece of wood out of 10 when you've already put 2 in there. But I suppose it needs the second bit of wood to actually spark the fire or something like that. Maybe it uses it as kindling, maybe, in terms of the mechanic. But yeah, so you do need to fill the campfire up with wood in order to keep it burning. Now, 1 piece of wood will burn a long time, as you've noticed with rebuilding this campfire a couple of days ago, and it's still going now. So 1 piece of wood does give you a lot of time. But usually whenever it runs out, I recommend just filling it up with as much as you can. Put 10 in there straight away, and it'll burn for weeks before you need to change it over. Oh, hey, look at that. We've got tons of little piggies. I'm just going to give them some more raspberries. And yeah, I think my initial guess of about 5 to 6 pigs in that small little pen was correct. So I'm probably going to increase the size of that soonish. I think we're going to want a few more piggies than this. Although I will say that we found a lot of the... Excuse me, sorry. I thought we have found a lot of boar on our playthrough so far. So we're pretty well stocked when it comes to boar meat and scraps and stuff, like leather scraps and stuff. So I think we're okay on that for now. We're just going to pop out and grab some more wood. We are running a bit low on it, obviously because our our campfire needed it. And I do want to have a quick look at building this new raft. This is not exactly a boat, it's just a bunch of logs that have been strapped together. It really doesn't even need that much. I believe it's 20 pieces of wood, 5 resin and 4 leather scraps. It might be more leather scraps than that. I think it might even be 8, but it's not a huge amount of resources to build this raft. It's very slow and very cumbersome and difficult to sail, even if you do have the wind in the correct direction. So yeah, it's not fantastic, but it's decent enough for a starter boat. Again, I would only really recommend using it just to get between islands. If there's a short distance between an island that you want to go to, say if it's a big Black Forest zone that you found right next to your main island, and you'd rather start there instead of smaller pieces of Black Forest that are on your main island, then use it for sailing across that gap, kind of bridging that gap a little bit. But yeah, it's not something I'd recommend sailing across the ocean with. It's actually quite dangerous to sail across the ocean with that boat, because your boat does have a durability, the same as your weapons and your tools and stuff like that. Things can deal damage to it. You can also deal damage to it by sailing into things. So if there's a rock sticking up out of the bottom of the floor, like on the seabed, and it hits your boat, it's going to deal some damage. Creatures can deal damage to your boat as well. Most of them will attack the boat before trying to attack you. And there is a very dangerous sea creature as well that obviously we're not really going to come across it until later on in the game. We might see a couple, but in the high level boats, if we see them and we haven't hit the mountain yet, I don't think I will attack them because they are quite dangerous. But we'll see what happens when we actually get to them. It mostly depends on which level boat that we're actually in once we see them, because I think we're in there's 3 levels of boats at the minute. There is obviously another one that's added with Ashlands. I'm not sure which one that is yet. But there's 3 main ones that I know of at the minute, and the first and second I wouldn't recommend using to fight those sea creatures. You can fight them, and I wouldn't recommend it because your boats don't have a huge amount of health, and those sea creatures hit pretty hard, so they can destroy it. And yeah, so I'd only recommend the top level boat currently, well, the second to top level boat, because I haven't seen the top level one yet. I really hope it's just this massive Viking longship that sails really fast and things like that. Oh, and you will have seen there. Oh, well, no, actually, no, it didn't. So, a quick thing about knocking trees down, you will have sometimes noticed. I think it actually has. No, yeah, it has. There's one there. So, when you're knocking a tree down, if it's next to a whole bunch of other trees, as the log starts falling over, it can collide with the top, like the leaves and the branches on the top of trees nearby, which causes small amounts of damage to those trees. But if it causes enough of it, it can cause those trees to fall down as well. If you're fortunate enough, you can actually create a bit of a cascade of falling trees if there's a lot of them quite close to each other and enough damage has been done. So yeah, you can actually use falling trees to knock other trees down, which could speed up that process ever so slightly of getting more and more wood down. Again, if those logs fall onto other logs that have already fallen, they can cause damage to them as well, and heck, it could even break them for you. So if you're wanting to gather a lot of wood at once, I would usually recommend going to a more dense area of woods that's got lots of trees in the surrounding area. Start knocking some of them down, and that should eventually knock the rest of them down. Now, in order to build this boat, we're going to have a crafting table right next to the water's edge so that we can actually build it in the water. Then we're going to need some resin and some scraps. Leather scraps, sorry. And then walk up to the water's edge. Into Misk, there's our raft. You can see it has a rudimentary sail and a rudimentary rudder at the back end of it. There we go, that's our first boat right there. Might as well take the workbench down. You can repair your boat as well. You do just need a workbench nearby. It doesn't need to be covered either. And then you use the repair function on the hammer in order to build it, to repair it, sorry. And yeah, I think what we're going to do now is probably repair some items or see what else we can build. Actually, let's just upgrade the crude bow and the wooden shield. So we now have, sorry, not the crude bow. Oh no, we did upgrade the crude bow. So we've upgraded our bow, we've upgraded our spear, and we now have a shield at level 3 as well. So upgrading your shield is quite important. I would definitely recommend, whilst you're progressing through the game, before moving to another zone, like say if you're in the Black Forest and you're thinking about going to the swamp, I would highly recommend upgrading your armor as much as you possibly can. The first time you enter a new zone, as you're progressing upwards, it can be very difficult, especially with the increased amount of damage that all those new zones creatures will do. You don't want to walk into the swamp for the very first time before you've built a base or anything like that and get instantly killed by them, so can be a bit of a pain in the backside. And I think we are pretty much ready to go and kill Eikthyr now. There isn't a huge amount left for us to do. We've still got a couple of bits left, but we'll just have to come across those when we can. And yeah, I think we're just going to head out and go and kill this deer boss. Gonna travel our way over there. Okay, so as we're making our way over to Eikthyr, I'm just going to quickly explain how to summon them, because summoning is a bit of a play around. It's not difficult, it's just a couple of things that people might not be aware of. So obviously, when you approach the summoning area for the first time, there is a little hint next to the summoning table that tells you the item that you need to farm to have a certain amount of to actually summon the boss. Now, it doesn't directly tell you what the item is, but it will give you a hint. So for Eikthyr, it says hunt his kin, which is deer, which means that when you hunt deer and kill them, they will drop a certain item that you will need in order to summon them. Now, as we know, deer only drop 3 items. They drop a deer head trophy, they drop their hide, and they drop their meat. Now, the hide and the meat already have uses. You craft armor and other items with the hide, and then with the meat, you obviously cook it and eat it. But through rigorous testing and the amount of times I've played the game, it is the actual trophies themselves that you need in order to summon the boss. Now, I'm not 100% sure whether you need 2 or more of these, but I'm pretty certain it's 2. So what I usually say, or what I would say, is take anywhere from 5 to 10 with you your first time round. That way you'll be sure. If that way we can confirm. And obviously I've taken 5 to 10 with me this time. I've just grabbed the whole stack actually. It's just so we can test it and be sure we know how many exactly we need. Although, like I said, I'm fairly certain it's 2. What you then need to do is place the item that you're going to offer to the summoning table onto your hotbar at the top of your screen. As you hover over the summon table, it will say item 1 to 8 on there. So what you need to do is you need to put that item into the hotbar at the top, and then when you're looking at the summoning table, you need to then hover over that item and select it. Like, say if you were to select your bow or your spear, it would pull the weapon out and equip it. You need to do the same thing with that item whilst looking at the table. It will then take however many of the item it needs, and you'll see a big pink explosion from the table, and it will start summoning the boss. In order to know where the boss is going to summon, you need to watch the particles on the screen. There'll be little particles that are flying around, but they'll all be kind of sucked into one particular point nearby. That's where the boss is going to be summoned. And then it will appear. You'll have a nice big health bar at the top. So here we are at the summoning table here. We also have the red stone off in the corner with the deer statue on top, which gives us the hint. So we're just going to do a little bit of reorganizing. I want my shield right next to my bow so that I can select my spear and shield quickly. And I can also switch to the bow if I need to. I would recommend, if you're new to the fight, to use the bow and fire arrows first to get started. But I am going to use my spear and shield in order to showcase the abilities. So you see there, we've got the deer heads on our hotbar. We're looking at the table. We've selected the deer heads, and then we offer the sacrifice. There we go. And as you can see there, it was 2 deer head. So yeah, I can confirm it's 2 deer head that you need in order to summon the boss. There's all the particles all been sucked into a specific point, and then in a few seconds, there he is, Eikthyr, our boss with his big health bar. Now, out. Eikthyr has 3 specific attacks throughout this fight. The first is what you saw just then, which was a frontal cone lightning attack. The second is the one that just happened there, which is the stomp, which comes as a big lightning explosion where he stomps the ground with his 2 front feet. And then the third attack you also just saw, which was the front head swipe, which is his melee attack. You can avoid all 3 of these attacks very, very easily. You can also tell what their wind up is as well. So for the melee attack, he's charging right at you, he's trying to get as close as possible, and his head will kind of duck down before he swipes. So if you're looking at dodge rolling, as you saw there, he kind of ducked down and swiped his front antlers at us. You can dodge roll pretty much every one of his attacks. This game does have a dodge rolling system which operates very similarly to Dark Souls, in which you have about a second or half a second worth of invulnerability, so you can pretty much avoid everything. You can also block every one of their attacks and parry them, as you just saw there. And you can see as well that we're not getting the crit bonus from parrying, which is something I don't think you can get on any boss. You can parry certain attacks from bosses, but I don't think you get the crit bonus damage because you don't hear the similar sound effect from critting. You also don't get the extra damage bonus. And you can also block the lightning attacks as well, as you see here, frontal cone. You can also dodge roll out of the way of that. You don't even have to dodge roll as well. If you're quick enough at reacting to it, you can just sprint out of the way when it comes to the attacks as well. But I would say if you want to be on the safe side, if you haven't got high level armor or high enough health and food, stuff like that, I'd probably say just take a shield and block just to be certain. There is a tiny bit of damage spilling over from every attack when we block, but it is literally anywhere from 0.3 to 0.5 damage, so it's not really doing that much to us. There we go, just dodge rolled another one of the frontal cone. And you can see that with our spear being level 2, it is very effective, doing a huge amount of damage. A couple more hits and ouch, down goes Eikthyr. Nice and easy, very simple boss fight. There really isn't that much to this fight. It's very, I don't want to say easy, it is quite easy, but I don't want to say there is a bit of challenge to it. For newer players, it is going to be quite difficult to get used to, but once you get those 3 attacks and how they work down, it's very simple. The charge up for the frontal cone and the stomp explosion that he does, the lightning attacks, they are easy to spot. He'll kind of rise up on his hind legs and slam down. And you just kind of have to recognize. There is a slight difference between the two of them. We just kind of have to recognize. I'm sorry, that was Hugin just there telling us that we need to take Eikthyr's head back to the sacrificial stones, or the boss stones, in order to gain the Eikthyr power, and I will quickly explain what Eikthyr's power is as well. It's one of my favorites. I use it 90% of the time throughout most of my playthroughs. Other boss powers are good. There is one that we get later on which is amazing for for fighting, but I just prefer Eikthyr because you will use it most of the time. And yeah, that's pretty much the Eikthyr fight in a nutshell. It's also quite easy to tell if Eikthyr is going to run up and melee you, because a lot of the time, in between attacks and stuff like that, Eikthyr will run around in a circle and they won't be running at you. They'll kind of be running away a lot of the time, running around in a circle, not really looking at you. Whereas if Eikthyr does start running at you, like directly at you, and they're looking at you as well, that means they're running up, charging up to do their melee attack. So again, all three attacks are easy to spot, so you can get out of the way or block them. This is Eikthyr's stone right here. You can see the deer picture on the front of it. That picture to the left is the new boss. And now that we've placed the trophy on the stone, you can see the ability that we get from Eikthyr and what it does. So we get the boss power of Eikthyr, which reduces the stamina cost of our sprinting and our jumping by 60%, which is fantastic. I will showcase it as well. Here we are, Hugin's telling us about it. We've been granted the power of Eikthyr. Well, we haven't been granted it yet because we haven't selected it yet, Hugin. Come on. All we need to do is just walk up and activate power. And then you'll see in the bottom left of our screen, next to our health bar, Eikthyr ready. So, the Eikthyr power lasts for 5 minutes. Every boss power lasts for 5 minutes. They give certain different abilities in terms of, passive bonuses. So obviously with Eikthyr, it's sprinting and jumping. When you activate them, as you can see there, it lasts for 5 minutes. If you look in the bottom corner of our screen where the Eikthyr ability is, there is a 20-minute cooldown to it. But that cooldown starts straight away as soon as you use the ability. So technically, after the ability runs out, you can see the buff in our top right next to our rested buff. It's 5 minutes long. When that ability has run out, we still have 15 minutes of cooldown left. Now, the extra thing you need to know about boss powers is they are shared between a party. So if you're playing with 3 other people, so if there's 4 of you in total, if one person uses the Eikthyr buff and the other 3 people are stood next to them, all 4 of you will get the buff for 5 minutes. But it doesn't affect the cooldown of the other players. So you can chain them in a way that you'll have a constant Eikthyr buff for the whole 20 minutes, and you just need to make sure you're doing it as soon as it runs out or within a few seconds of running out, and you can pretty much have a full Eikthyr buff without ever having to worry about the cooldown if there's 4 of you. But when you're later on in a playthrough with a group of friends, I would also recommend having other boss cooldowns and other boss abilities for certain stages of the game. But again, we'll cover those when we actually get to them. And as you can see here, my stamina is going down very slowly while we're sprinting. It also does the same when we jump. 60% less usage is so good, and you do still gain skill experience for sprinting and jumping whilst having Eikthyr on. So, the item that she drops, or the item that they drop outside of their trophy, is their antler. You can see there we have 3 pieces of it. We also need some wood, but we can make an antler pickaxe. Now, when you're playing with more than 3 people, you will get more than 3 pieces of antler. It gives you enough so that each player can have 1 pickaxe. If you're playing on your own, you get 3, and I would highly recommend, as you can see here, I would highly recommend making all 3 pickaxes at once. And the reason why is that their durability isn't fantastic. I don't think you can upgrade them either to a higher level to increase their durability. So, having all 3 of them made at once, and when you decide to go out and mine stuff like minerals and stone and stuff like that, you can just, as soon as one of the durability runs out, you can switch to the next one, and you don't have to worry too much about having to run back and repair the item very frequently. We're not going to go sailing right now. If anything, I'm actually thinking about ending the session quite soon, as we are. Oh, that's what I'm doing. Yes, that neck there that's in the ocean. For some reason, it doesn't want to attack me, but it wants to attack my boat. Don't know why, but I keep hearing it hitting the boat as I'm stood inside, and it's very frustrating. So, neck, please bugger off. I don't think we actually killed him there. But yeah, we're not going to go sailing now. We'll save that, and we're actually going to end the session quite shortly. Now that we're back at home, our rested buff has worn off. Eikthyr has been killed. We have their ability, and we are now ready to go to the Black Forest and take on the monsters and boss that lives there. We have uncovered a few Black Forest areas already, so we can go straight off to those. But yeah, I think we're going to end the session shortly. So, thank you everybody for watching. I'm actually going to stick the deer heads back in here because we don't really need them anymore. We will have a trophy room at some point where we stick one of each head. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope you're enjoying the playthrough so far. I'm certainly enjoying playing it again, especially after our month-long hiatus after Mistlands. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed. I'll catch you in the next episode.